OOAK. So after an amazing wedding, a honeymoon on which I sadly fell sick and had to recover from, I'm finally back with another Monster High redesign. For those of you who don't know the series, I'm basically taking the Monster High characters from Generation 1 and Generation 3, smash the designs together and redesign them in my style as 16-inch ball-jointed dolls from scratch. And if you've seen the thumbnail, you know we are going to make the one and only ABBEY Bomminable today. For ABBEY, Blue Pixie actually made a completely new doll body because we wanted to make sure to give her the beautiful curvy body of the Generation 3 ABBEY doll. She also sculpted a beautiful face and some shoe bases for ABBEY, so I think we should get right onto the project by mixing her a custom skin tone and get her printed. Let's go! Okay, so my voice is very beautiful today because I'm sick, and I promise you I'm gonna lay down, but I want to at least print the doll today. So we're gonna need to mix some custom skin tone. So how about we do that real quick, then pour the resin into the printer, start the print, and then I'm gonna lay down. So in love with ABBEY's face, the little horns, the teeth, and also of course her body. I also printed her taller than the other ghouls, so she should be the tallest of them all. I really cannot wait to make her look fierce now. If you're watching my videos, there's probably a slight chance that you are somewhat of a fan of the land of the rising sun, Japan. That's where the anime is. You might have seen videos or Instagram posts about Japan and all the cool goodies that you can get there, like rare Pokemon cards, snacks, anime merch, or even dolls. So what if I told you that there is no longer a need to actually travel to Japan or even speak the language to get your hands on some of these? Let me introduce to you Zen Market, your Japanese shopping cart where you can add items from any Japanese online store or auction. Buy from 10,000 plus Japanese stores, including Amazon Japan, Rakuten, Mercury, and so many more. Zen Market will also store your items for up to 60 days for free, and they also offer great customer service in 19 languages. Trusted by 2 million users worldwide. And here's how you can get started. You can register your account for free and get 1,000 Zen points if you use my promo code Moonlight Jewel. These 1,000 Zen points can then be used as 1,000 yen off the international shipping fee. So what are you waiting for? Get yourself a little birthday treat. A heartfelt thank you to Zen Market for being the middleman we desperately need and for sponsoring this video. And now let's get back into making ABBEY. Oh god. Okay, so with the doll all assembled, you are probably wondering what look I have planned for her. I basically want to give her a blonde wig with Generation 1's typical purple, blue, and pink highlights, topped off with some tinsels, a white velvet crop top with some sparkly chain accessories and non-attached velvet sleeves, an asymmetric two-colored mini skirt, one side iridescent, the other shiny black, with two belts on which on one of them I will attach a tiny snowflake-shaped hip bag. I also give her some purple sparkly fishnet stockings, some black platform boots, topped with white furry boot covers with sparkles and shines. And to top off that whole outfit, I'll also give her a purple fur scarf. So as you can see, that's a whole lot of pieces to make. So how about we start by making her wig. As you can see, I have prepped a wig cap off cam for her with 2 holes for her little horns. Kind of looks like a panty. I'm just marking the middle part here and will first use this blue hair on the back of her head in homage to the colored highlights of Generation 1 Abby. That also means that I'm going to be adding a purple and a pink highlight of hair to the back of her head as well. For a nicer look, I straighten the hair carefully and will then start to add some iridescent metallic shimmering tinsels to her hair. I glue them with OOAK glue, and when satisfied, I finally add the main color of her hair to the wig, a very light platinum blonde. Since Abby's wig is pretty simple, I basically just have to fill up the whole wig until the middle part, so how about we speed up that process here a little bit. When reaching the top of her head, I'm just trying to glue the wefts in kind of a natural growing pattern, almost until the middle part, and then fill up the last part with some smaller wefts. And then I just have to add folded around wefts along the middle part and below her little horns for a finished look. As you can see, I already added some tiny bobby pins I found online to the front of her wig and will now add more pizzazz to them by gluing on a small rhinestone chain to one pin and add tiny sparkly, yes, we say sparkly on this channel, black rhinestones to the other pin. The finished wig turned out so incredibly cute and I think it resembles Abby really well. I love the subtle highlights on the back of the wig and also the iridescent tinsels that I spread throughout the wig while making it. In the end, I decided to add some glittery pom-poms to her hair too, but that was a last minute decision, so you will have to wait for the final presentation of the doll to see that. Now let's give her a fierce face up. Blue did an amazing job in sculpting Abby's features, so first things first, let's apply a bunch of shimmery powder to her face before starting to add some cute blushing with pastel chalk dust. I added to the cheeks, the top of her ears, her chin, and of course her nose, just like Generation 3 Abby. When satisfied with it, I also add some deeper pink blushing to her lips. I feel pink lips just work so well with the blue skin tone. And then it's finally time to sketch out her eyelines. I take my dark gray pencil and carefully map out where I want the eyeliner to be, and then also add a blue eyeliner with a blue pencil on top of it. On top of that eyeliner, I decided to give her a pink eyeshadow, so she will basically have a cute cut crease look. I really enjoy these looks on dolls, even though they're not so easy to achieve. So just like when you try it on yourself. When manually mirrored to the other side, I also sketch out her eyebrows with grayish brown shades and add a bunch of iridescent micro glitter to her horns. And while at it, how about we spread the glitter on her face as well? With some white paint I took from my Posca marker, I paint her little fangs white and then add the bottom lashes to her eyes. I know we haven't painted the eyeliner yet, but the order of how you do things doesn't really matter here, and this time I felt like painting the lashes first. And afterwards I take my black acrylic paint and line the sketched out eyeliner with it to really make it pop. I also line the cut crease blue with some blue acrylic paint, and when everything was dry, take some black pastel chalk dust and shade the bottom lashes with it. I really like the effect that this gives to a face up. And because she isn't glittery enough already, I also add some more iridescent glitter to her face before sealing her off one final time with Mr. Super Clear. I then decided it would be super cute to give her 2 little rhinestones in the inner corners of her eyes, so I add them with a tiny drop of PVA glue. And then it's time to gloss her lips and lower lash line with 3 layers of Liquitex High Gloss Varnish. This really brings so much life to a face up, don't you think? And now I just have to glue the lashes with some OOAK glue, and also decided to add iridescent micro glitter to her whole body to kind of give her the glittery Generation 1 sparkle skin. I simply seal it off with Mr. Super Clear afterwards. Now only her eyes are missing. I prepped the white eye bases already and first give the iris a coating with light purple paint. When it was dry, I add some iridescent micro glitter to the iris with a Q-tip. I then dab a tiny drop of UV resin to the middle of the eye and add 2 small black rhinestones to them as pupils. I cure that for a minute and then add more UV resin to them, spread it with a toothpick, remove air bubbles with a lighter and sparkle some purple glitter to the iris and move it around with a toothpick if necessary. I then cure the whole thing again for a minute, add another layer of resin, and place teeny tiny iridescent highlight darts to the eye. After curing the eyes, it looks like this, and I now just have to add the final doming layer to them by carefully filling up the eye until there's a small dome forming from the resin. I cure it one last time, and the finished eyes turned out absolutely gorgeous. And here's also the finished face, and you know what that means. Let's put eyes and face together and boom! Wow, would you look at her? I'm so incredibly happy how the face up turns out. I think it brings out her features perfectly, and I really feel inspired now to finalize the look of her with a really fashionable outfit. To make Abby's top, I cut the pattern pieces from white velvet fabric and will first glue around the edges on the front to clean up the seams using my favorite OOAK all-purpose glue. I cut the middle piece for the top from pink sparkly fabric, already cleaned it up on top, and now simply glue it to the top like this. After it was glued and dry, I then take the back parts of the top and sew them along the side seams, good sides in. To finish the top off on the bottom, I then add this folded around strip and pin it to the top like this so I can sew it on. After sewing, it looks like this, and I now need to clean up the top seam on the top as well using some glue. Quick transition here to after I finished the gluing process, not just on the top but also on the upper collar seam, as you can see here. And now I just pin the collar to the tiny seam of the top and sew it on with a couple of stitches. Afterwards, I just have to glue around the rest of the bottom seam allowance of the collar, and before we continue with the top, let's make the little sleeves. I'm making them from these rectangles and first glue around the top and bottom seam allowances. And then I simply just fold them together like this, good sides in, and sew them along that seam. Here you can see that I already put the top and sleeves on the doll to see what they would look like later on, and now attach some beautiful rhinestone chains to the top. I first glue one longer chain from the center middle part to the back of the top on each side, and then add a second chain in the same fashion, and I really love the way it looks. In the very end, I actually found this really pretty icy looking pendant in my stash and decided it would finish up the top perfectly. So I attached it to the front of the top with some glue and finish it off with an iridescent rhinestone. My cat is crunching in the back. I hope you cannot hear it on the voiceover. The finished top just looks so beautiful, and the velvet fabric gives it a bit of a wintry theme, even though it's more of a summery looking top. But I love the contrast of this, and also that the sleeves are separate. Let's make Abby's skirt next. For the half iridescent, half black skirt, I first take the iridescent parts I cut from pleather and first sew the darts on the back piece. That actually worked better than anticipated, so I could now continue and sew the front and back piece together next, finished sides in. For a cleaner look, I also glued down the seam allowances on the inside. With one side of the skirt done, let's make the shiny black part as well. I'm basically going about it the same way, sewing the dart on the back first and then hemming together the front and back piece along the side seam. Now I can take both skirt pieces and sew them together on the middle back seam, good sides in. I again glue around the seam allowances of the back seam and also use some more glue to glue around the seam allowances around all the edges of the skirt. With a little velcro as a closure added, the skirt is done, and I really love how beautiful it shimmers. However, the two belts that I want to add to the skirt are still missing, so let's make those next. To make the black belt, I first need to use some apply it to a sheet of shiny black fabric and foam. I fuse the pieces together and let them dry for a bit so that I can continue and put them into my laser cutter to cut the strap and back pieces for the belt. I cut a snowflake from iridescent pleather and the rest of the pieces from the black foam fabric material. Here are the pieces for the back, and you can see I marked on the snowflake part already where I need to glue the back bodice piece. I then spread some contact adhesive onto the marked line on the back piece, on the strip that I'm going to attach to it, and on the back piece of the bag. Let that cure for a bit and then glue the strap onto the circular back piece first, and spread some glue on the other side of the strap afterwards, and then glue the tiny back piece to the front piece. Last but not least, I attach the iridescent snowflake with some OOAK glue and have a cute little hip bag on which I now just have to attach a little fabric loop so that I can then attach the bag to the belt later on. As you can see, I prepped the belt with some shiny foam fabric strips and a tiny clear snap buckle, and now just attach the back to it and then finish off the belt with a little chain element. For the white belt, I also made a foam strip and covered it with white fabric in the same way as I did with the black fabric, and then attached this pretty clear pink snap buckle to the belt with some Kontaktkleber. In the end, I, however, did not really like the thickness and the look of this belt, so I opted for a white pleather instead. I already made it off cam, so let's bedazzle it now. As you can see, I already attached some chains to the belt here, but want to add more, so I prepped these rhinestone chains on 2 rings and will now bend the rings open to thread them through the tiny little pleather loops that I already attached to the belt. I really loved how this looked, and now just have to bedazzle the belt with a bunch of tiny silver studs. This took quite a while, but a time lapse always makes everything look so effortless. The finished belts turned out really cute, and I really love that the snowflake on Abby's belt is a tiny little hip bag. Making bags and accessories like that is definitely one of my all-time favorite things to do. But what's also one of my favorite things to do is making shoes. So let's tackle Abby's boots next. I printed these super duper platform shoe bases on my resin printer already with some leftover blue resin, and first have to paint these bad boys black. Afterwards they look like this, and I will now put them to the side and first make the inner soles of the boots. I cut the shapes from some cardstock already, and to make them look prettier and shinier, I decided to glue them onto a piece of iridescent pleather. I let them dry and then cut them out and end up with something like this. I also put these to the side now and finally make the actual boot pieces. I cut out all the pieces from black pleather fabric already and want to attach the zippers to the boots first, so I glue around the seam allowances in the slit for the zipper and then attach the black zippers onto these pieces. I pin them in place carefully and then hem them in. Afterwards, I can cut off the excess zipper piece and then sew the back seam of the boot finished sides in. I also top stitched the seam on the left and right side of it, and to make the edges of the pleather look nice and finished, I mixed some black acrylic paint with PVA glue and attached this mixture to all the visible edges of all pattern pieces for the boot and let it dry. When everything was nice and dry, I then take the heel piece of the boot and glue it to the back of the boot with just enough glue to keep it in place. I then top stitch it and will remove the double layered fabric of the heel with scissors. That will make it easier to glue the boot around the sole later. But now we first need to punch in the holes and put the eyelets in. I wanted to make a nice little stop motion thing transition here with punching the holes, but while editing I saw that you can barely see it. Maybe I should have done it with the eyelets instead. I then take my white eyelets and punch them into the boot with a beautiful transition. They look really nice, but I wanted the boots to be completely black, so I decided to paint the eyelets black. Why didn't I use black eyelets in the first place, you might ask? The answer is very simple. I didn't have black ones. But Not macht erfinderisch. And now it was finally time to glue the boot pieces around the sole. I cut little triangles into the bottom seam allowance for an easier gluing process and then used contact adhesive to neatly glue the parts around the sole. I then spread some OOAK glue on the inside of the shoe with my finger. Don't worry, I washed it immediately afterwards. And then glue the whole boot sole combo piece onto the shoe base, on which I attached the tongue pieces already. I forgot to film that, sorry. I need to hold that now for a couple minutes and then end up with a really cool looking boot that is now ready to be laced up. I'm using a smooth thread for that and tweezers for easier handling, and in the end decided to cut some teeny tiny snowflakes from iridescent pleather as well and glue them to the front of the boots. They will probably not be visible in the end because of the boot covers, but hey, it's the thought that counts. I also paint some elements on the sole chrome silver, and with that the boots are done and I'm really proud of them. I think I'm getting better at making shoes and I really like how clean they look. Next step would probably be to add lining to the inner shoe. Maybe next time. Let's make the furry leg warmers. I cut the pieces for them from white fur already, and in the same fashion as the sleeves, first glue around the upper and lower seam allowances. Then fold them together and make sure all the fur is tucked in before sewing them together finished sides in. After sewing, I just have to turn them furry sides out and will put them on the doll for further bedazzling. I want to add more rhinestone chains to the leg warmers, so I cut 2 chains in different lengths like this, and then wrap an iridescent leather strip on which I'm going to attach a little ring with a bead on around these rhinestone chains and glue the strip together. I make 2 of these pieces and then attach them to the front of the leg warmers with some glue and then glue them around the boot covers, attaching them on the back of them with glue as well. To finish them off, I use an iridescent purple rhinestone again. I really love how these turn out, and they honestly look so cozy and warm. I would actually love to have these myself for the winter time. I also want to give Abby some stockings and was actually super stoked when I found purple sparkly fishnet tights online, and I think they're just going to look perfect for Abby. Look at these beautiful tights. I know it's a bit sad that I have to cut them for Abby's outfit because I would love to have these for myself, but I gladly sacrifice these in order to make Abby a perfect outfit. Here you can see I cut a rectangle from the stocking already and first glue around the top and bottom seam allowances with contact glue. I use contact glue because it stays super elastic even after curing, which is important here. And when the seam allowances were glued, I then fold the long sides of the stocking together and sew it finished sides in. You might ask why I didn't add a foot to the stocking. It's because of the rhinestones on the tights. I was just afraid that a boot would be too tight in the end. The finished stockings look super pretty, but just wait until you see them on the finished doll later on. Okay, let's make Abby's scarf. I couldn't really find the right shade of purple fur, so I decided to make my own purple fur by taking a strip of white fur fabric, some purple pastel chalks, and then pastel chalking the hell out of the white fur. And basically paint it in a beautiful, perfect purple shade. And yes, this took ages, but it was so worth it in the end. Afterwards, I just glue the scarf piece together with some OOAK glue and the scarf is done. I think it looks really pretty and will be a perfect finishing touch for the doll. Speaking of finishing touches, I also wanted to give her some cool iridescent sunglasses, and lucky me, I still had some leftover iridescent acrylic laying around, so I made some vector graphics for the glasses, cut them with my laser cutter, and now just have to glue the temples to the front of the glasses. I cut them with little notches so they fit together perfectly, and when the glasses were dried, I finished them off with 2 iridescent purple rhinestones as well. Alright, so we are pretty much done with Abby. There's just one thing missing. A fitting skelet doll stand, right? So I prepared the vector graphics for it in Adobe Illustrator already. So how about we make a little montage here to finish off this absolute fun project. With that, I can finally put Abby together for the very first time, and I could barely hold it together. She is probably my favorite redesign so far.
Oh my god. Holy she's so cute. Ah!
Okay, so I just put her together and she is so gorgeous. But I know you probably really are dying to see her. So let me present to you the one and only Abby. Yay!
一歩ずつ前へ進もう夢の国へたどり着こう笑顔を忘れずは翼のようにのんびりと思う明日と一緒冒険の道はない声響く幸せの歌遠くまで行こう夢を
is Abby and all my Monster High redesigns. With this doll, I want to conclude the series for now. That doesn't mean though that I won't be doing more Monster High redesigns in the future. But for now, I have some more projects. But for now, I have a bunch of other projects already planned, and I hope you're excited for those. And to give you a little hint for the next project, I hope you like cake, especially strawberry cake. As always, big shout out to all my patrons. Thank you so much for the continuous support. It means the world to me. Alright, that's it for this series for now. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. So see you soon in a new video. Bye!